It's beloved, it's loathed, it's vilified, it's praised, it's misunderstood, it's awesome. They call it the Black Rifle, and it's been promoted as America's rifle by the NRA. It's been increasing in popularity since its conception. Oh yeah, and let's not forget, it was born and bred here in the good old US of A. This is a rundown on the AR-15. The AR-15 is a lightweight, semi-automatic, air-cooled, gas-operated, magazine-fed rifle that was based off the Armalite Rifle Model 15, which was designed in 1956 by this guy right here, Mr. Eugene Stoner, the Thomas Edison of the modern rifle. George Sullivan started Armalite in 1954 as a small arms concept and design company in Hollywood, California. Quick note, contrary to popular beliefs, the AR in AR-15 stands for Armalite, not assault rifle or automatic rifle. George met Stoner while he was out at a shooting range testing out some prototypes. Now, Stoner was a World War II Marine veteran and an expert with small arms, and was immediately hired by Sullivan to be Armalite's chief design engineer. Stoner went to work immediately and came up with the AR-5, a survival rifle chambered for the .22 Hornet cartridge. The rifle could be disassembled quickly, and all the components could be stored in the buttstock. The AR-5 was adopted by the US Air Force in 1954 as the MA-1 survival rifle. In 1955, while Elvis was shaking things up and James Dean was being a rebel, Stoner completed the initial run of design on the Armalite AR-10. This was a revolution in the world of small arms. This weapon boasted a compact size, was easy to fire, and didn't weigh much at all. The AR-10 was chambered for the 7.6251 NATO round. Now, while all this was going on in Hollywood, the United States military decided that it was time to replace the tried and true M1 Garand. Now, I have one and I love it. The M Garand is awesome, especially on that last round where the clip goes bing! I'm breaking glass. The Garand was the staple of World War II, and it served admirably at the time, but was limited in ammo capacity, which was only 8 rounds, and the fact that it weighed over 10.5 pounds made it seem quite antique-ish. Is that a word? It is now, it's my show. Armalite came late to the race with only 4 AR-10 prototypes. It introduced it into the mix, though, alongside with the Springfield T44E4 and the heavier T44E5. Fabrique Nationale also submitted the FN FAL T48. The AR-10 prototypes were designed with a straight stock, elevated sights, an aluminum flash suppressor, a recoil compensator, and an adjustable gas system. In the 4th and final prototype of the AR-10, the lower and upper were hinged with the now familiar takedown pins. Also, the charging handle was not attached to the bolt carrier anymore, so it did not reciprocate when fired. Most of the military had positive things to say about the AR-10. I mean, many of the testers thought it was one of the best rifles that ever shot, and why not? I mean, it only weighed 7 pounds, and it allowed a soldier, in theory, to carry an extra 4 pounds of ammo or gear. Unfortunately, one of the biggest gaps in the design was the inclusion of a composite barrel made of aluminum and steel. Now, reportedly, this barrel was specified for the rifle by Armalite President George Sullivan himself, despite strong objections from Mr. Eugene Stoner. The composite metal burst during a torture test performed by Springfield Armory in 1957. The subpar barrel was quickly replaced, though, by a steel barrel, but the damage had been done already. Springfield reportedly advised against accepting the AR-10, stating that it would take at least 5 years for the rifle to be seriously considered for adoption. The military decided to go with the Springfield T44, which later became the M14. Now, many believe that politics weighed heavily against Armalite due to the fact that Springfield was a federal armory. Armalite continued to market the AR-10, but disappointed with sales, they decided to concentrate on producing a small caliber version of the AR-10 as part of the US Continental Army Command Rifle program. This resulted in the Armalite AR-15, which was chambered in a bullet exceeding supersonic speeds at 500 yards and capable of penetrating a steel helmet at that distance, the .22 caliber 5.56. In 1959, due to financial problems, Armalite sold the design and the AR-15 trademark along with the Armalite AR-10 to Colt's Manufacturing Company for reportedly $75,000, or in today's money, around $700,000. Now, soon after, in '61, Eugene Stoner left Armalite to become a consultant at Colt. Air Force General Curtis LeMay saw a demonstration of the AR-15 in 1960 and he was impressed. I mean, when LeMay became the Air Force Chief of Staff in the summer of '61, he placed 80,000 AR-15s on order for the US Air Force. In 1961, as the United States continued to penetrate the jungles of Indochina, a handful of AR-15s were sent to South Vietnam to US Army Special Forces. The reviews from the field were positive. The GIs loved it. Now, the Viet Cong had the Soviet AK-47, which was smaller and more adequate for close-quarter combat, especially in the jungles of Vietnam. The American troops were running the M14 at the time, which was heavier, longer, and fired a full cartridge, which made it difficult to control under full auto. 1963 birthed Michael Jordan, The Lava Lamp, and the Beatles' first album. It's also the year that Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara ordered the adoption of the AR-15. The US Army ordered roughly about 85,000 AR-15s, now designated the XM16E1. Now, for all you aficionados out there with your M16s, the XM16E1s, and the M16A1s, just bear with us, guys. We'll get to some of those differences in a moment. But for now, for the sake of clarity, we're just gonna call it the M16. On May 3rd, 1965, the 173rd Airborne Brigade Sky Soldiers, stationed in Okinawa, departed for South Vietnam. It was the first US Army ground combat unit committed to the war, and the M16 was right by their side. It became the primary service rifle. The Vietnam War was in full swing, and American troops were armed with around 300,000 brand new AR-15s bought from Colt. Here's a quick Snapple fact. The term black rifle was originally given to the first AR-15 rifles by the Viet Cong due to the black-gray plastic furniture. Now, the rifle was not without its problems, as I'm sure many of you guys have heard. Soon after the rifles were deployed into combat, reports of significant malfunctions began to circulate. One of the problems was the powder being used in the cartridge. Instead of using the IMR or stick powder that it was designed for, the military was using ball powder because they had huge stocks of it. Ball powder burns much faster, which increased the port pressure of the rifle. The rifle was designed to fire at a rate of no more than 700 to 800 rounds per minute, but with ball powder, it was increased to over 1,000 rounds per minute. Now, this caused many problems, including accelerated wear and tear on the rifle, and the fact that ball powder burns much dirtier didn't help either. The rifles were also touted as self-cleaning rifles and were not sent out with cleaning kits. This was mainly due to the fact that the M16 was an intern solution. Whoa, wait a second, time out. Back it up. Remember when I said earlier that it was called the XM16E1? That's because the X stood for experimental. Now, going back to what I was saying earlier, the M16 was an intern solution. Why? Because the Army was still waiting on the special purpose individual weapons, or the SPIWs, to be finalized and sent out to the field. Now, the SPIWs, that's a whole other topic, man. It was not until later that year, in 1966, that the Army supplied 22 caliber cleaning kits with an operator's manual. The manual that was supplied was actually a 32-page comic pamphlet with a blonde mascot that appeared on almost every other page. She was wearing jungle fatigues and a green beret. It was created not only to show the troops how to keep their M16s clean and functioning properly, but to entertain them as well. Another addition to the problematic M16 was the forward bolt assist. To this day, some people see it as a useless vestigial appendage, while others find it to be a necessary feature, like helping you while you're doing a chamber check or loading around quietly rather than just slingshotting the charging handle. The forward assist was added by the request of the Army. They wanted a soldier to have some external link to the bolt carrier to manually close it, like on the M14 or the M1 Garand. Well, many believe that you never force a round into the chamber because this could cause way more serious problems. Either way, the Army considered the capability of manual bolt closure to be essential, and their official recommendation read as such. The AR-15 is to be issued to combat infantrymen who are expected to use the weapon under the worst possible conditions. Any chance, no matter how slight, of malfunction in combat due to the inability to manually close the bolt is unacceptable. The frequency or infrequency of the type of malfunction correctable by a manual bolt closure capability is immaterial. The knowledge among the troops that such a malfunction is merely possible would lower confidence in a weapon lacking a manual bolt closure device. This led to the belief that the forward assist was added to fill a psychological need, not a mechanical one. A fake fix, like blowing into a Nintendo cartridge to make it work. The Air Force was happy with the rifle not having a forward assist. Now, this is the main difference between the M16 and the XM16E1 and the M16A1S, which we'll get to in a minute. Now, one of the most serious causes of malfunctions on the M16 in Vietnam was the failure to chrome plate the chamber. This allowed corrosion and pitting of the walls in the chamber. Now, when the projectile is fired, the cartridge case expands. These pitted walls would grab the case as it expanded, making it hard for the extractor to pull the casing out. The extractor would simply tear the rim off the cartridge, and the only way to remove the casing was to stick a cleaning rod in the barrel or just to simply hammer it out. Now, there were many revisions done to the M16 during all of this time, from the bolt carrier being parkerized to the redesign of the bolt catch, an upgraded buffer, the new bird cage flash suppressor, protective bossing around the magazine catch, and stainless steel gas tubes, just to name a few. Now, all these new revisions made the M16 a more reliable rifle and achieved widespread acceptance by the US troops in Vietnam. And on February 28, 1967, it took on a new name, the M16A1. Now, in 1983, while all the kids were at the arcades playing the new Mario Brothers game, and the rich yuppies were getting their Dynatac 8000X mobile phones, the US Marine Corps was adopting the M16A2. Some of the changes included new rifling patterns on the barrel as well as reinforced barrels, support for the single-shot 40mm M203 underslug grenade launcher like the one Arnold carries in Predator or Pacino used in Scarface, an all-new adjustable rear sight, a revised flash suppressor, a rounded ribbed front handguard as opposed to the triangular one, revised ergonomic pistol grip, lengthened and reinforced stock made of polymer with integrated butt plate, and a shell deflector next to the ejection port. The full auto functionality of the original M16 was also dropped in preference to a more controllable 3-round burst. In 1994, the M16A3 was introduced, which is basically an M16A2, but with full automatic capability. Yeah! In 1998, the M16A4 was adopted by the US Marine Corps. It's basically an M16A2 with a 3-round burst, but has a removable carry handle and a full-length quad Picatinny rail. It was a standard issue weapon until 2015 when it was replaced in this role by a more compact M4. Now, the M4 and the M4A1 are shorter and lighter variants of the M16. They have a 14.5-inch barrel and collapsible stock, which made the weapon easier to carry in tight spaces like armored vehicles or helicopters. So what's the difference between the M4 and the M4A1? Well, the M4 has a 3-round burst, while the M4A1 has a full auto firing mode. Now, Colt has been selling the AR-15 to the civilian market since the 1960s with their AR-15 Sporter rifle, which would set you back about $190. The rifle became far more widespread after 1977 when Colt's patents expired. Other manufacturers like Olympic and Bushmaster got in on the action, leading to mass production on the rifle. Now, the rifle was popular with the civilian market from the 80s to the early 90s, but even then, the AR-15 felt more of like a niche gun. But in 1994, President Bill Clinton signed an assault weapons ban, which basically outlawed the sale of AR-15s and other similar semi-automatic rifles for 10 years. It was an attempt by the government to prevent mass shootings, or so they say. The ban made it illegal for civilians to purchase firearms classified as assault weapons, including the AR-15. So what was classified as an assault weapon rifle? Well, it would be a semi-automatic rifle that has an ability to accept a detachable magazine and has at least 2 of these features: flash suppressor and/or threaded barrel, folding or collapsible rifle stock, a pistol grip and bayonet mount, and let's not forget, a grenade launcher. They claim that these features appeared useful in military and criminal applications, but were deemed unnecessary in shooting sports. Prices for pre-ban AR-15s skyrocketed, and manufacturers had to start making AR-15 variants without the key features that the government considered an assault weapon. The law also banned large capacity magazines, which was defined as ammunition-feeding devices designed to hold more than 10 rounds. The ban itself didn't have a significant effect on gun violence statistics, and the government didn't renew the ban when it expired in 2004, mostly because anti-gun politicians didn't stick around much longer after the ban. After the ban expired, gun makers quickly brought AR-15 style rifles back to the fore. In less than a decade, from 2004 to 2013, the number of rifles, including AR-15 style rifles, manufactured in the US increased threefold to 4 million. Now, this is according to data from the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. Sales of AR-15 style rifles have soared with political debates over gun regulations in the news, often in wake of mass shootings or during contentious election cycles. The AR-15 remains one of the best-selling rifles in America, and why not? The fact that you can customize it to your liking makes it very attractable. There are over hundreds of AR manufacturers today, ranging from complete rifle manufacturers to accessory manufacturers. AR-15s accounted for an estimated 61% of all rifle sales in 2016. And the National Rifle Association reports that Americans own more than 15 million ARs today. Wow. Wow.
Wow.
The AR-15 and its variants have a rich history in both military and civilian markets. The fact that it has been around over 60 years and is still the military's rifle of choice is a testament to the quality of its design. It continues to be loved and sold in vast numbers to this very day. Thank you for watching this video. Make sure you go check out our other rundown videos that we have on our YouTube channel. Go check out Bravo Concealment for your everyday concealed carry needs. We'll talk to you guys soon.
That sounds good.